Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are you?
I'm just like stressing about everything because why wouldn't I be? I've been
Sure.
engaged for about a week
Mm-hmm.
and I am already trying to plan
Everything.
walkthroughs of bridal of like wedding venues. Um, because my engagement timeline is not long. It's 14 months, which is not long, especially given the fact that we're planning on having a wedding during holiday time. So we kind of want to do a lot of the beforehand stuff earlier than you would normally do it for a wedding because
Sure.
it's an out of season thing. So it is just very
Standing.
stressful. It's just dandy, but because I'm trying to plan this while also helping my sister plan her wedding while also losing my mom for most of this month since Brianna is due this month. So
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
it's gonna be
It's gonna
great.
be
It's gonna be
fun.
great. I got a new baby coming, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I'm gonna marry a pretty swell guy.
All right.
So
He's all right.
it's all right.
We love it.
Although David and Doug were talking about how their best man speeches are going to be awful. And Doug was like, I don't think you understand. I've had notes on my computer for a year. I was like,
He is prepared.
I do not trust either of them.
I love it. It's gonna be super fun
It's going to be
and
great.
interesting.
It's going to be great. Between the two of them and you and Jill, I'm just very concerned. So it's going to be fine.
I'm not gonna know what I'm gonna say until the night before, probably. That's how I prepare speeches
Which
for all of
is
my
fair.
life, not just for
Yeah.
weddings, but also for weddings.
It's great. It's
So,
great.
you know, good times.
Good times. There's that. But yeah, so other than like unnecessarily stressing myself out because I definitely have more time than I'm acting like I do. How I'm great. How are you?
Well, I am fully embracing spooky season, as you can imagine. Um, so amongst my horror movies, I had a Stephen King day on Saturday, which was super fun. So, as
Good.
you know, I watched Children of the Corn already. So we also watched. I was with my aunt. We watched Rose Red and The Storm, the Century. That's what it was
Okay.
called. They're both like Stephen King miniseries, so they're like 9 hours each. So it was like a full day. Um,
Fantastic.
but it was so fun. They were so good, and I love a good like Stephen King limited series. Those are always like super interesting. And in Rose Red, they had oh my gosh, I keep forgetting her name. Kimberly Brown, Kimberly Locke Brown Locke. She's from Halloween Town, the main girl from Halloween Town.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can't
Um,
remember her name either, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, and so she was like one of the main characters in the show. Um, so it was very fun to
Love
see.
that.
And yeah, I'm just like really like when we get off here, I'm thinking about like doing another like movie night of spooky movies. So
I love it.
just to kind of like embrace it before I have to go back to work tomorrow.
Fair enough. I know.
So,
Having
good times.
4 days off, and by 4 days off, I really only had 3 days off. But teacher math says that if you don't have students, it's a day off, even though you have to be at work.
Yeah,
So I had 4 days off, and the idea of having to look at the kids again, not
I know.
not on my list of things I want to do tomorrow.
Does
Um,
not sound top notch. Does not sound
no.
top notch.
Luckily, Tuesdays aren't rough days for me. Tuesdays are one of my better days of the week.
Oh, good.
Um, but still annoying.
Yeah. You know, it's okay though. We're gonna make it through.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it through. And please tell us how we can do that. Just how we can make it through.
Yeah, I absolutely will tell you how we can make it through very quickly as I pull something up that I forgot to have prepared for this moment.
I totally meant to remind you, and then it got super distracted during our break and did not.
Yeah. Well, I also got distracted because I was trying to do wedding planning instead of preparing for this podcast. So, um, this because today is Indigenous Peoples Day / Columbus Day, depending on where you are and what they call it where you
/
are.
Leif Erikson Day.
Yes. One of the quote website that I usually use has a lot of Christopher Columbus quotes, which feelings and debates about him as a person aside, I do in fact like this quote because I think it is true. Riches don't make a man rich, they only make him busier.
That's true.
Yeah.
I wish I was rich and busy as opposed to just busy.
And saying that would be so lovely. I am poor and busy, but
yes, same.
There's that. But yeah, so
excellent.
Yeah, we were
well. Also, things that are good that keep us spiritually well, or not,
and busy,
and busy. Today, we are talking about The Exorcist, season 2, episode 2. I wrote 3 because I was working on the wrong notes, but it is indeed episode 2, called Safe as Houses. Makes me really nervous about houses. It aired October 6th of 2017. It was rated 7.9 out of 10, which feels fine, feels normal.
Yeah.
The number one song and movie are still the same, but the book is now A Column of Fire by Ken Follett. I have heard of him, but I've not ever read any of his stuff.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with that either.
Yeah. So while last week you did not have anything crazy happening in your day, I had everything. Like, this will put you back to October 6th of 2017.
Good.
First,
I was gonna say I did actually have something happening on October 6th of 2017. I went to a gala. That was a very beautiful event to raise money for breast cancer. And that is about it. Oh wait, no, I definitely did that on the 7th, not the 6th. I don't know what I was doing on the 6th.
It's all right.
It was okay.
It's okay. Well, a lot of other people were doing stuff on the 6th, so it's fine. Okay. This is the day that Harvey Weinstein took a leave of absence after all of the accusations came out and really spearheaded the movement for all of these terrible men to be removed from their positions. The International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, ICAN, won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Beautiful.
And last, but certainly not least,
oh Lord,
the owner of AIM, AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, announced today that they were going to discontinue AIM by the end of the year. So, RIP AIM. It was a moment, it was a movement.
It was something, all right.
So, if that doesn't take you back to 2017, I don't know what will.
It actually takes me back to last week when I saw a video that was explaining why so many younger millennials and or Gen Z people have an issue with us as a generation because of our tendency to try to make Facebook statuses or tweets that are just song lyrics which is entirely because of AOL Instant Messenger away statuses. And like, it's not our
Right.
fault. Not our
Yeah.
fault.
We
It
were
is
programmed this way.
correct. And so
Yeah.
like
And like MySpace, you had to pick a song. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
No. So
no.
I was watching these TikToks where people were like, is there any other millennial out there just like itching to post a song lyric right now? And I was like, my
Yes.
problem is I do it all the time and I don't care if people like it or not. So it is
Yeah.
what it is.
That's really okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Embrace it. I say. Yeah. So for this episode, our director is Darren Serafian. He is known for the 2019 Swamp Thing, Hell on Wheels, Terminal Velocity, and House. So he has
Was not
mostly
expecting that one on the
right,
last one there.
which is why I put it last instead of clear up, because he's mostly known for horror and thriller.
Yeah.
And then he's also an executive producer for 2 years of House. So like,
Cool. Why not?
why not? Yeah. He directed like 29 episodes of House, I think. It was like a pretty substantial amount, and then was the executive producer for 2 years. So
Great.
good times. And fun fact, he is no longer, but was married to Laurie Fertier. Fertier? Are you familiar with that name?
Um, no. I mean,
She
I
is
feel
none
like
other. Oh, you'll know it. She
okay.
is none other than from Hemlock Grove, Marie Godfrey.
Oh, the mom
I think so.
of yeah,
Yeah.
what's her name? What's her name's mom,
Hmm.
who was married to the guy who was sleeping with.
The evil guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Norman.
That's who I assumed it was. I looked at her
Yes,
face, but it's fine.
Marie is Norman's wife. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. I
So,
was like, Marie, who the shit is that?
you know, but in real life, she was Darren's wife for quite a minute. They had a couple kids and whatnot.
All right.
Our writers are Adam Stein, David Grimm, Melissa Clark, and Yasmin Yilmaz, who are all returning. And our editor is Pietro Sacchini, who's known for Law and Order SVU, Queen of the South, The Passage, and The Exorcist. This one. No notes, no info about him. He is there is another Pietro that is a businessman, and so his LinkedIn profile kept coming up, and then I kept seeing Instagrams with no pictures.
Yeah, so probably not helpful. Even if it was
not
him,
helpful.
it would not be helpful, no.
Right. There's like no information. So
Right.
But he did some things. He did some good things. So today we are talking about Brianna Hildebrandt, who plays Verity. And as you mentioned, she's known for Deadpool. But also she is known for Tragedy Girls, The Time Capsule, and Lucifer. She started writing songs when she was 12. She was given her first guitar.
Great.
And she was born in College Station, Texas. Just
Great.
fun fact. One of the guys on The Bachelor, that I don't remember which one, is from College Station. But that is my only connection. And it's like, I think like an hour and a half outside of Louisiana. So it's like not very far.
Got it.
I've never been, but I know people who've been. So now we have our previously on, and at the end, it includes the scene where the Pope was not killed, but was almost. So we know that we're about to get back into it. And
so
oh no.
during the previously on, I gasped at every scene about the Pope or the like creepy people from last season. And Dan was like, "What's going on?" I go, "Oh no, I've seen all of these scenes before. We're still in the previously on." And I was like, no. He was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, no, we're good. Sorry."
I just wasn't ready yet.
I wasn't. I thought we had another episode before we got into last year's stuff, and I was not prepared.
That's so funny. Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be so soon, but I mean, it's only 10 episodes, so I guess it had to be.
Yeah, but then the opening scene, the first scene, I literally was like, are you kidding? Like, I freaked out and I was like, I go, we're at the Vatican? And my mom goes, what are you watching? I was like, The Exorcist. She goes, oh, okay, I'm leaving.
Everyone in your life probably thinks you're insane.
Probably.
It's fine. They keep you.
I mean, I am, but
Right.
also my reactions to this show are not that of a normal person watching horror. They're of a person who is way too caught up in the Catholic Church on a daily basis. So the people around me are listening to the things I'm saying and they don't know what show I'm watching, which is concerning.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is concerning. Well, as you mentioned, we do indeed start at the Vatican at the Office of Exorcism, which I didn't realize existed. I meant to look it up, but I do think it's a real thing. Um, do you know?
Oh, that it is currently still a real
Right.
thing.
But like in life, I think it has been a real thing.
Yes.
Um, which of course is where we find Father Bennett, our fave.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
and yes,
weirdly, I Googled the Office of Exorcism and a page came up from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops that is an actual text of exorcisms and related supplications that was published and implemented in June of 2017. So apparently it is not as removed from right as
defunct.
I thought it was. The Roman Catholic Archdiocese of San Bernardino Office of Exorcism is an active Facebook page. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
figured
no,
if anyone was going to have an Office of Exorcism, it'd be like the Vatican. Like, you want like the
right,
big
no,
guys
for
to go after it.
sure. I'm looking just to make sure that if I don't care about
You should
films,
join the
but
Facebook page.
I should. With the Deaf and Aliens page,
Right.
that would
How fun
be
would that be? We'd have someone on our
um
door in like 2 days.
absolutely.
Well, your door. It's registered under you, so they'd show up at your door, not
Yeah,
mine.
no, the most recent literature about exorcisms is in the 2010s, and it does in fact say that they have to do as much diagnosis and ruling out of mental illnesses and like medical testing as possible first. But no, there are still currently active offices of exorcism in the Catholic Church.
Great. Get those
Yep,
demons. I like it.
yep.
Good to know. And I hope that they're all just like Father Bennett, who has his demon info spread all over his desk. So we just have pictures of all the demons. It makes me think of the red string board.
Yep, that's what
So
I
that's
thought
what
of
I hope
too.
they have.
Yeah.
Yep, at the Vatican. Um, and Cardinal Caro comes in and says the tribunal is ready to hear his information on demons, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not ready." And he's like, "Nope, that doesn't matter. That's not part of it. I think that's the whole point." And so he goes down and he's explaining that there's not only possession but integration, and they're like, yeah. We all
Wait,
know about integration. Like, it's
whatever. Yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
Um, so he's like, but the problem is the Vatican is infiltrated, so we don't know like who to trust, whatever. And so they call in Cardinal Gio, um, who he has accused of being integrated, which is the guy
Yeah.
that put a bag over his head and took him. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. And they just like won't hear it. The tribunal's
No.
just like, no, this is crazy. And so then he's like, well, let me just like drink some holy water to prove it to everyone. And here's my questions and concerns. So concerns, can some integrated demons drink holy water? My
Yeah.
other thing is like, if he's the only person blessing it, but he's a demon, it's probably not blessed.
Correct. That's
Like,
the actual
yeah,
issue. No, he would not actually be able to drink truly blessed holy water. But since he and his minions have blessed it, it is not blessed.
Right.
Which is why he was snarky and nasty to Bennett and was like, oh, or do you want to bless it yourself? You don't trust me. And the rest of the tribunal was like, don't be an asshole, Bennett, because they all suck. And this is when I decided to get very angry and pause the TV and go off because I had the realization that in the current world of 2023 and the failure of the church as an institution, what's most concerning to me about the show is not the demonic possession. It is the fact that if someone were to go to the Pope and say that cardinals in the church were taken over by demons and integrated and trying to kill the church from the inside, the likelihood of them reacting in the way that they reacted in the show is pretty high.
Yeah.
And it stresses me out. Because like we've talked about on the podcast before, I'm working for a Catholic school. Catholic churches are not doing so hot right now. There are not a very high number of priests coming in. Money is not coming in. Things are falling apart. Priests are upset because post-COVID numbers have never returned. Post-COVID money, like post-COVID, we haven't gotten numbers back. We haven't gotten money back. Like it's just a thing in the Catholic Church right now. But there's this massive disconnect. Like the people on the ground doing the work, teaching at the schools, in the churches, like working with people day and day, are seeing these issues. And then the bishop, the head of the diocese in our area, is saying the same things that we are. And yet somehow the message but somewhere between the bishop and us, there's something missing, because the things that we're saying should happen, the things that he's saying should happen, aren't the things that are happening. So like this is like a legitimate problem that happens in the church like every day. And I'm not saying that anyone who's working in the church in my area is possessed by a demon. That's not
possessed, yeah.
But the fact, like, if I was like, I don't trust that these particular priests are actually implementing the message, and I think they're trying to cause more harm to the church, people would be like, you're a problem. I mean, because that's how the pedophilia in the church got as far as it did. That's how corruption and money laundering in the church got as far as it did. Because how dare you insult the institution of the church? But like, I'm not insulting. No one's insulting the institution of the church. In fact, what they're trying to do is protect the institution of the church by saying that humans who are fallible, who are human, who are broken, because that's what humans are trying to break the church down from the inside, and you're not believing them. And that is the actual horror of the show.
That's the problem. Yeah. That it's too close to home. Yeah. Well, I hope that none of your priests become possessed by demons.
I mean, I hope so too. Like, God, could you imagine? I can't. I can't imagine. I cannot imagine the scandal that it would cause. But also, like, the Pope's not coming to Buffalo.
True. Fair. So you're probably okay. You're like the last town that they're gonna try and hit. So like you're all right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going through this whole situation. No one believes Bennett, and now this cardinal is drinking unblessed holy water, so it's not burning him.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, you've been saying all this, like you're, like you were saying, like you're the problem, but also like your pal Marcus tried to kill the Pope and now you won't tell us where he is. And I was like, great. Everyone now thinks that like Marcus is the one who tried to kill the Pope, even though he's the one that saved the Pope.
I literally, again, because I yell out loud at the TV, I would literally go, Marcus doesn't want to kill the Pope. That's not what happened. And my mom just goes, tell us how you really feel.
But you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Right.
That is not what happened. He is the best of all of them. So
it's not even one of them anymore. They kicked him out. You already excommunicated him. What else do you want?
Right. But That's where we hit the credits. And when we come back, we are with Marcus and Tomas. Well, we come back to a girl in the middle of the road, and when she turns around, she doesn't have a face. And and then Tomas wakes up. Was this episode?
That's definitely
Nope.
not this episode.
That's next episode. My bad. Disregard.
Like,
Pretend like I
I was
never
like,
said
no,
that.
that didn't.
This is where Marcus wakes up to them being tied in a barn.
Yes.
I just read like wakes up, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, that's next episode.
No, yeah. I was like, wait,
Yes.
no. This is still Cindy. We're still working with Cindy.
We're still with Cindy, yes. So they're still tied up in this barn that they were left in
Yeah.
by Jordy and his men. But Cindy has been taken to the hospital, which is what we saw at the end of last season. And Jordy is back to talk with them. Then we go over to Andy's house. And we start with him boarding up the old well, which is for the best, so no one else can fall into it, when Rose walks up to him to talk to him. And they're just kind of chatting, and he's like, how's your room? And she's like, it's great. He's like, good. I want to put like 2 more kids in there, like blah, blah, blah. And then she's starting to be a little wishy-washy. And she's like, well, there's some things to be talked about. And you can tell that she's like not like, yeah, you should totally have 2 more kids here. So they go back inside, and Caleb has locked everyone out of his room. And poor Truck is like standing outside the door, and he just wants to feed Morty his parakeet, or bird type of bird. I think it's parakeet.
Yeah, it's a parakeet. It's a parakeet.
And he can't get in, and Shelby comes up and he's like, look, they can live with like without food for like 3 days. So like it's okay if you can't get in like this second.
He's like, Caleb just needs to be alone. He's like, but he's not alone. He's with Morty.
Yeah. Poor Truck is just so distressed.
I just love Truck so much.
I know. I feel so bad for him. But Shelby does distract him with food. He's like, here, let's go get some lunch, and we'll figure it out later. It's fine.
Great.
And then we have a couple, Colleen and Russ, who show up with a basket of goods, and they are neighbors that are just like hanging out, and they were like telling Shelby, they're like, hey, you wanted to see a live birth? We have a sheep that's gonna have a birth tomorrow. If you want to, or maybe it was later this afternoon. If you want to like come hang out.
They're cute little farmers who live on the island with them. Also, the guy, 100% I know that guy. I cannot figure out what I know him from, but 100% I know that guy.
Well, I did not look him up, so I will let you know as it arises.
Okay.
Maybe I'll look it up, and before we record the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we're back at the barn, and Jordy is convinced that they've given her something, and like so like they've poisoned her or like hallucinogen something to make her act this way.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't acting this way before. I don't know. So so he's telling
things
him
are getting worse.
Right. And so Marcus is like, yeah, there is a poison inside of her, but it's not like
called the devil.
It is. Right. It's Lucifer himself. And Jordy's just like, this is not it. But Marcus is goading him because Marcus is just angry now. And he's like, this is going to get bad. You're not listening to reason. Like Tomas has already tried to reason with him multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's just not working. So finally Tomas tells him about this like vision he was having, and he's like, yeah, I saw Cindy at this place, and she seems like she's she needs help. And it turns out that that's the old church that they were at 10 years ago. And so Tomas starts singing Walking After Midnight, and then Jordy just says, if she dies, you die, and walks off. So we'll see what happens there.
Yep. When he said that, I go, fair. Okay, I mean, I guess not, but also like
right.
Like
that's like, give them a chance to fix things, but if they like messed it up, like it's fair to be mad,
Yeah.
So then we go back to Andy's, and Rose, they're in Caleb's room now, and Rose is questioning Caleb, and he says that she was like, do you normally go walking around at night? And he says, no, I normally wait for the sun to come up so I can see. I was like,
Caleb is the sassiest kid. He is so funny. And
He's
I'm so
hilarious.
sad that he definitely has been possessed by a demon.
I know, I
And
know.
that's not a confirmed thing. Just I'm not
Yeah,
spoiling anything. I'm just 100% sure,
yeah,
personally.
yeah, sweet baby. I have a different theory that I'll tell you in the end.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
that I'll probably tell you in next episode because it's more relative to that.
That's fair.
Um, so Andy tries to give him an out, and he's like, he just like, Chuck sleepwalked. You saw him. He's like, he was sleepwalking. He just found out about his dad and all this stuff. So he's like super upset and stressed out. And she's like, yeah, is that right? And he's just like, I don't want to talk anymore, and just leaves. And I was like, just say yes. Like, doesn't have to be true. You can talk to Andy about it later. Like, this is just so you can keep your house for now. Like,
Correct.
goodness. So we have a brief moment at the hospital where Jordy is with Cindy, and he's like, just squeeze my hand if you can hear me. Like, I want to make sure you're still in there. And then she like very like strongly squeezes his hand and just like has a fit, like has a demonic fit.
Yeah.
And so back to Marcus and Tomas. And Marcus is, which is bless his heart, he is trying so hard. He's telling Tomas not to let the demon in and how quickly Casey got to him. He's like, you remember, like, you were on your knees because you thought it was Jessica in like 30 seconds flat. Like, you
Yeah.
can't let the demon in. It will get to your head. And
Yeah.
Tomas is like, he's like a like stubborn child. It's like so
Yes.
frustrating.
Here's
He's
the
like, I'm not
thing.
a novice. And he's like,
No,
okay.
but you are. Okay, maybe you're not a beginner, but you're still a novice. You're not an expert. It's been 6 months
Right.
and eight
Yeah.
exorcisms. Like, get the fuck
Yeah.
over.
He's like, this was 6 months ago. Like, calm down. Um, and then we uh friend. I don't know
The
what that's called.
phone, is
So
it, does this one, the guy outside the barn's phone rings, or do we move on before that?
it's after this. So he
Oh,
says
okay.
Tomas says that Marcus hates the fact that God chose him over Marcus. And Marcus is just like so frustrated. Like, clearly that's not it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't even know what to say if you're not going to listen. And then this is when the phone goes off and the friend answers it. And then he like turns around and creepily looks inside the barn. I was like, oh no, what's happening now? Hopefully he's just here to tame them and take them to the hospital. But
Right.
instead, we go to Andy's, and Rose is saying that she's obligated to file a report. And he's
Yeah.
like, please don't do that. He's like, that
Yeah.
that's gonna like put us at risk. This house is gonna,
Yeah.
we may lose the house, like everyone. He's like, these
Yeah.
kids don't have anywhere else to go. Like, this
And
is not good for anyone.
he's not like, he's like, is the island the best place for them? Maybe not, but it's better than having nowhere for them to go. Like, you know what the system is like. Like, don't do that to these kids.
Yeah.
Especially because if you look at the pictures around the room, which they do in this scene a little bit when, right? Is this where they get into that fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at the pictures in the room and she's getting into this fight with him, the kids were all already there with him when Nicole died. So they've
Yeah.
already lost her. Don't take their house away from them too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize that all the kids also lost her. That changes a lot.
Yeah, because apparently this was like super recent. I didn't realize how recent this was either.
Yeah.
But she's saying that she's concerned about like Caleb injuring himself, and he's like, he's fine. Like, he just, it was a weird situation. It's like, it's okay. He's never acted like that before. And then that's when she brings up Nicole, and we find out that Nicole killed herself, and that's how she died. Um, and that's when the fight starts because he gets angry at her for bringing
Yeah.
it up.
For like, and for for saying that he wouldn't be able to see the signs of depression in the kids because he
Yeah.
didn't see it in her. And that is not fair.
It's not fair at all. There's like,
No.
and like, first of all, everyone reacts differently. So like, even if
Correct.
they both had the exact same feelings, they would not have the exact same signs.
And
And
this, and
so,
second of all, when your job is to take care of children, your job is to care for these children. that doesn't mean that kids can't hide it, obviously. But like
Sure.
every single thing that Andy has said about, okay, he has never done X, Y, or Z before. He has never acted like this. This is the information he was given yesterday, and this is the reaction he had. This is a reasonable reaction, a reasonable moment of rebellion. Like Andy is completely in the right about understanding his kid and their reaction to things. So like how dare you? How dare you bring that and
Yeah.
like use that as a weapon?
And we know that this isn't like the first time he's dealt with something like this because like Verity was a really problemed child, it sounded like whenever she got
Mm.
there. And we don't know all the ins and outs of it.
But
But
she's
like,
clearly not that kid anymore.
yeah. And like, so we know that he is, part of the reason for that. And like, he does pay attention. He does like help these kids. So absolutely not fair. Um, and just mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so he does leave in the middle of their fight, and Grace is outside the room and runs off. And he's like, I'm so sorry you had to hear that. And she just like runs away. And I was like, great. So we go to the hospital, and they did indeed take Marcus and Tomas to the hospital. And this hospital is empty. Like they've just started removing all of the people that they could because there's like blood on the floor and things are like knocked over and there's like no telling what's going on.
Not a good look. Not a good look at all.
Yeah. And so they're going towards this office. There's a man or a room, and there's a man screaming behind a door with like blood on the floor. And they uh they don't they open it, and she's in there, and she's like choking him, but like not all the way. And it's more like she's just kind of like playing with him. And they're like, you have to stop. And she obviously does not. So we go back to the Vatican, and Bennett is talking to Cardinal Caro, who it seems is like actually on his team. I wasn't sure in the
Yeah.
beginning. It seemed like he was at the
Yeah.
beginning, but I wasn't sure
Yeah.
yet. But he is, and he was like, I thought you had said that like I was protected. Like I thought that they hadn't
Right.
like figured me out or whatever. And he's like, well, I did. It's like the best we could do, but also the church hasn't approved an exorcism in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And they like know that he's like slipping cases to like Marcus and Tomas. And at least the cardinal does, even if like
Yeah.
everyone else doesn't. And he's like, well, here's like some information. So he gives him this like contact information for a random woman. And he's like, just get in touch with her. So back at the hospital.
Is this,
in a very
doesn't he,
disturbing
he
scene.
also asks, he says, I know you told the council that you don't know where Marcus and Tomas are. Is that true? And he said, yes. And he said, if it wasn't, would you tell me? And then it says, no. Because even with Carol protecting him and being on his side, he is not trusting anyone just in case. And that is...
But also, like, if Caro got taken and was, like, tortured or something, he didn't want anyone else to have the information.
Exactly.
Just in case.
Yeah, like, he's doing this correct.
Right. So he's making all the right choices. So we're back at the hospital now, and Cindy starts saying the words of consecration and eating this man's face. Very disturbing, not great.
That was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not a fan. And Tomas starts talking to her, and she's obviously getting more riled up. And so she just slits the man's throat and goes into the ceiling. I was like, okay, we're just doing that now. That's fine.
Yeah, no, so Dan was doing laundry and he had left the room. And then he came back just at that moment and goes, oh, I see, I came back at a really good time.
Yeah, like, yeah, this is not the one.
No.
Bless his heart.
No.
Yeah. So we do go back to Andy's, which is also not a great time to be there.
No.
Caleb is grabbing an apple to eat, but when he takes a bite, it just so happens to be full of maggots. And he throws down the apple and spits everything out. And then Verity walks in, and she's trying to talk to him, and he is just angsty and angry.
Yeah.
and not well. And he just storms out and knocks over the basket of apples.
Poor
So
thing.
now we're at the lamb's birth that Shelby was attending. I'm guessing he wants to learn how to be a farmer. I don't know why he's involved in this, but they did say that he was interested, so here he is.
I mean,
Um,
that seems like a job Shelby would want to do.
it does, it does.
Yeah.
So I'm not like super surprised by it. It's just,
Right.
fun fact. Um, so the lamb, so we're there with the sheep and they're telling him how it works. They're like, this is what we do. And then they're like, the sheep is freaking out. And then the horse starts freaking out. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's about to die. And they start
Oh
saying that
no.
like the lamb is in breach. And so it's going to come out upside down and they have to like make sure it gets out before it drowns. And it's like a whole thing. And so they're
Yeah.
like, maybe you just like leave. But
Well,
he
because
is
you're teaching this kid about being a farmer and you're letting him see his first live birth and it's a traumatic one. I would
right.
also be like, hey, bud, maybe next time because like this is a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, absolutely. But he's like already in too much shock that he like isn't leaving. Um,
No.
and so when the lamb is removed from the body, it has like violent teeth already
Yeah.
and is clearly not the Lamb of God. Um,
No,
so
no.
that's disturbing. And then they tell him to look away, and Russ kills it, which is the correct choice.
Correct. No, I mean, and the thing
But
is, because we're watching a horror show, we are like, oh God, that is terrifying. But also, like, if you are a farmer and your lamb gives birth, or your sheep gives birth to a deformed lamb that cannot, like, live on its own, that is the correct, like, husbandry thing to do. Maybe not
yeah,
in the way that he did it. I don't know the
yeah,
correct way because I am not trained in animal husbandry, but like with a baby with
yeah,
that many birth defects, it isn't going to survive. So you have to take care of that.
right. I mean, I would say probably not normally in this way, but
No, no,
this
no, no.
does
It
appear to
it
be a
does
possessed lamb. So
right.
maybe not let it make it very long is the
Yeah.
correct answer. Um, so and that's just what was handy at the time. Um, so Caleb goes to talk to Andy and he finally tells him what happened. And he's like, okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I wasn't alone. I was with Verity and she left me there. And he tells him about like the ritual and everything. And Andy's like, okay, this all makes way more sense than him being like self-harming.
Yeah.
And so we so he's like, great. We go back to the hospital and Cindy has now moved out of the ceiling and is in the room with the babies.
I
Just so
panicked.
distressing.
I panicked. I was like shaking for this whole scene because I was like, this show pushes boundaries in a way that I don't like, but I genuinely don't think I can handle if they harm an infant on the show. Like I that was not gonna be
Yeah.
I was gonna be done with the show like cold blood because that is too much for me. Um I
Yeah.
also couldn't imagine Cindy doing that because I know that a baby is like why she even got possessed in the first place is like
Mm-hmm.
losing her baby. And so like I knew that they were gonna have to like have the breakthrough in that moment for the storytelling purpose. But I also was like, if any of these babies get hurt in order for that to happen, I cannot continue to
Yeah.
watch the show.
Yeah, I was very distressed in this moment. I did not know
Mhm.
what was going to happen, but I had similar feelings. But I was like, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that nothing bad is going to happen. It just means
No,
that
for
this is
sure.
also going to happen. Um, so she's got the baby and she's holding one and like looking at it and looking a little motherly, like demonic motherly. And she growls and all the babies are quiet. And she's like, oh, thank God. She's like, I didn't think this was gonna like happen. She's like, so now we finally get some peace and quiet. And everyone's trying to talk her down because obviously they don't want anything to happen to the baby.
Mhm.
But it's not working until Tomas starts singing Walking After Midnight again.
Yes.
And it like puts her in this trance and she starts like singing it too. And like they're connecting and he's already like connected with her in the demon. So it was easy to like build that that
Yeah.
connection. And he slowly but thankfully takes the baby from her. And as soon as he has the baby, Marcus just pins her to the ground.
Which
And
is the correct, though the way that they actually managed to work in tandem in that moment was the correct thing.
yes, absolutely. So, best scenario from what I was expecting from the
Yeah.
baby room.
Yeah.
Could not have had it happen better. So, thankfully, the babies are all safe. So,
Yeah.
we go back to Shelby, who, bless his heart, is like walking in the dark woods and reading his Bible, as you do. I don't know about you, but that's what I like to do is go out in the woods in the middle of the night in the dark and just read my Bible while creepy noises are happening around me.
Trying to figure out like the sequence of events. Like, did he
Yeah.
like it doesn't feel to me like he just was like, let me go take a walk. I feel like he was like, I have to walk home because I was at the farm and now I need to get home, but it's
Mm-hmm.
dark and scary, so I will be reading my Bible to protect me, which to be
Yeah.
fair is something I would do.
And that does feel more like it makes
Like,
more sense.
yes, but
Um, but
the
just like coming out fast
like just
is
the visual of him just like casually walking in the woods with his Bible open, I was like, oh, that's a choice.
yep. And in this moment he also starts hearing noises, including some shrieking noises. And they just keep growing louder as he's walking home, which is
Yeah,
disconcerting.
correct.
So then Andy, of course, goes to talk to Verity because he's like, Caleb told me everything
Yeah.
about the well. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. It's all true. I'm so sorry. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, well, if all, and she's like telling him about the like ritual again. And she's like, yeah, this is like something we've all done. It's just kind of like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Really, it's fine. We didn't, think anything of it. And then she's like, so he's like, why did you leave him then? She's like, I didn't. And he's like, yeah, you did. Like, it was in the middle of the
And
night and you left him. And she was like, oh no, I was talking about in the middle of the day when we were all there. That it
yeah,
was it was me that pushed it, but it was like not
but it
last
was
night.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, well, and he's like, I don't mean to like bring this up again, which is where we start hearing about her like having some issues in the past. And
Yeah.
she throws it right back at him and she's like, why would you bring it up when it's not something that's true? And why would you like why would he lie? And she's like, why would I lie?
I
Like,
lie. Yeah.
yeah. And so he leaves and again, Grace is outside the door. And he's like, sorry you had to hear that again.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I don't want to go. I was like, well, this is where we are right now. So stop standing outside people's doors and you wouldn't be so freaked out. So we're back at the hospital.
Yeah.
And the demon starts talking to Tomas and says, let me in and I'll let her go. And Tomas is kind of a moron. Because
A little bit, yeah.
like it's for the best. He does indeed let the demon in enough to go back to the church with Cindy. And he hears it, and then she tells him that the demon's in the confessional. So he goes in there and she starts singing and he starts exorcising her from within. And the demon is saying all of the demon things. And he's like, Marcus is afraid of you because you have this power that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
And then as he's doing the exorcism, we all come.
I'm a mess today. Thank you.
I know. We all come back to reality and the demon becomes exorcised and she asks for Jordy, who rushes in, and everyone is living happily ever after. The demon's been exorcised and she's going back to Jordy. And then Thomas says to stop sulking to Marcus. And now they're arguing again because Marcus is clearly not sulking. Marcus is concerned.
Yeah.
And Thomas just keeps saying, I don't understand why you're so afraid of this. And I'm like, even I understand why we're so afraid of this. And I am not an exorcist. Like,
I feel like I fall somewhere in the middle. Like, I do actually think that what Tomas is doing is a power that he has been granted, and that
Yeah,
exercising from in the inside is um helpful and something
official.
that not
Yeah.
like and like official and like real and not something that everyone has the ability to do, and that's why he was destined to be an exorcist. I'm all for that.
Hmm.
But I also agree with Marcus that Tomas has, while he might have been given this gift, he has no ability to control it or understand it, and he is opening
Yeah.
himself up to so much shit that he does not even understand.
Yeah, and he should definitely be more wary of it than he is. He's just like, I'm just gonna do it because I can and I'm doing the right thing. And it's like you have
Right.
to understand now that like, your thoughts are open to a demon, and so like you have
It's
to
like
be able to
I
like
learned how to juggle, so I'm moving from apples to flaming chainsaws.
right, right. Yeah, that's the exact equivalent. So but bless his heart. So we go back to the Vatican, and unfortunately we see the tribunal taking Cardinal Caro away.
Ugh, so upsetting.
And so Bennett calls Marcus and says the Vatican's been compromised. He's like, you have to, as soon as we get off here, you have to get rid of this phone and you have to like get out of wherever you are. He's
Yeah,
like, and Marcus is like, well, how will I get in touch with you? And he's like, you won't. I'll
I'll
find you.
find. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right.
Mhm.
So we're back to Andy's, and Rose is filling out her forms, and she started typing up this report about Caleb. And Andy comes in and he tells her all about the ritual. And he's like, look, it's stupid kid stuff. It's not actually like a self harm. And while it's something I probably should have been aware of since it's been going on for so long.
And he's like,
It's
but
not
I did it.
something.
Yeah, he's like, but I did
Yeah,
explain to them that it's more dangerous than they realize, and I boarded up the well, and I had the conversation with them, and we'd have nothing to worry about.
right. Like even if they were to do it again, like the well is boarded up. So it's not something
Yeah,
that they can like even do
right.
again. So she apologizes about bringing Nicole up in their last discussion, as she should. And
Yeah.
he's saying he's glad she's there, and now their friendship is kind of blossoming again. And she's going to send a good report. So we go to Marcus and Tomas, and he's just like, Marcus is singing Patsy Cline now, and Tomas is like, we can't do this, and turns on the radio. Marcus is like, I'll never get this song out of my head.
No.
And then we learn that they're heading to Washington. Dun dun dun. We're making our way. We're making our way to Andy's
I mean, I
house.
guess that makes sense because what is the next state over from Montana that is in the opposite of direction of Chicago? Washington. Like,
Right. Yeah.
right, but
So it makes sense, but he was like, I know exactly where we're going. So then we go to Andy, who's watching Truck and Caleb, and they're, being Truck and Caleb, just kids like hanging out with the
yeah.
bird and whatnot. And then he suddenly hears clattering outside, and he goes to investigate. And there are bloody handprints on the door. And
And then in the strangest twist,
Shelby, we turn around, and Shelby is holding this dead baby lamb. And it turns out that he has put the blood on the home because he says something is in the woods, and this is the only way he knew how to protect them. And that's where we end. That's where we
yeah,
go.
yeah,
So I have one goof for you.
great.
So when she's filling out the form, I actually noticed this while watching.
Yeah.
While she's filling out the form, when she opens the computer back up, it's already changed to the information, like reflecting that it was the ritual. And so that she's
Oh,
not recommending
yeah.
any further stuff. Like, so it, and before it had been that she was like detailing it more that it may have been self-harm.
Right. Well, I knew because I knew obviously the no further action thing was like what she was typing, and that was what we were supposed to be focusing on, but I didn't realize that it had totally changed what the paragraph said.
Yeah, the paragraph was totally different. It was no longer about self-harm and completely about the ritual, like the well ritual.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then that's my goof for you. Who do you want to punch in the face?
Cardinal Gio. Oh, fuck
Yeah.
that guy. Oh.
Yeah, he sucks a lot. And
He
has
was he
been
was
for
only
a
in
while.
one scene in the episode, and I still hate him more than anyone else in the
Yeah.
entire episode. So like, there's that.
No, that's totally fair. Similarly, but
Yeah,
not the same. I picked the head of the tribunal. It's the person I'd
yeah,
like to punch in the face.
yeah. Valid.
For a
So
lot of the same
valid.
reasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Who is your MVP?
This one is much more difficult. And also my opinion is slightly colored by the fact that I've seen the next episode, so I'm trying to like separate information I have
Mm-hmm.
about characters. Um, I think in this episode, my MVP is Bennett because I was just very
That's
glad to
fair.
have Bennett back. Step
Yeah.
one. And step two, Bennett is like straight up risking everything.
Yeah.
So,
Um, Also similarly, I did not go with Bennett, but I did pick Cardinal Caro because he
nice.
did give Bennett all of the information he needed to move forward, and we see him getting kidnapped at the end. So I assume that that's not going to go well for him, which means he basically sacrificed himself for Bennett.
Yeah.
And the wellness of the world of exorcisms
Right,
and
right,
whatnot.
right.
So like not
Yeah.
just for Bennett, but like most
Yeah.
directly for Bennett, which is nice. So
Yeah.
good for him. He's a good guy. I like him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you have any non-next episode related predictions?
I do actually have one prediction that is neither confirmed nor denied by the following episode, so I can talk about it. And that is that I think Shelby is related to Bennett.
Oh, interesting.
We know
But
Bennett. Well, here's the thing. We know Bennett's sister was killed. We know that he comes from a family like in Africa, and we know that he doesn't like that he was like took care of his sister. So it is possible that other family members that were like not a part of that situation. I don't think he's like his brother. Like I think he might be like a cousin or something. I think he's related to Bennett.
interesting.
And that is not just because they are both the African American characters on the show. It has to do a lot with how intensely focused on his faith Shelby
On
is, and
religion.
how
Yeah.
he is able to see things that other people aren't able to see because of that. And I think that he is more connected than. I also think that Grace is actually Andy and Nicole's kid, not a foster kid.
Interesting.
Because Grace is not part of any of what Rose is looking at. Grace is not being monitored by Rose the way the other four are. And Grace looks a lot like the pictures of Nicole. And Grace does not have any Asian features. So that is not necessarily, so that may not be true. But I don't know. She looks a lot like the pictures of Nicole, and there seems to be a different relationship he has with her than he does with the other kids. And so I feel like Grace is actually Nicole's kid, not a foster kid.
That's fair. I always thought it was because she was just a little more disturbed, or maybe she was one of the newer kids and hadn't like adjusted yet.
Which is also fair, but it could just be that. That's again, my theories are always wild speculation. So
right. I could totally see Shelby and Bennett being related because of the like. There's no one else that is as like committed to their faith and religion as Bennett, other than Shelby.
Right.
So I could definitely see that. I'm glad that Cindy's okay and Jordy are okay.
Yeah. I'm also glad they didn't
can...
drag that on because
I'm glad it was a quick thing.
Yeah. It introduced us to where we are. It introduced us to where we are this season and how things are and what Tomas's new power is without being a plot line because it clearly isn't.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that that's done.
Yeah, and we had to see it happen once before we could get into it. So like it totally makes sense. It was really well done. But yeah, and I've made it to the end of my notebook, so I have to get a new notebook. But
What?
I know it's been a crazy ride. I started with American Horror Story season 1, episode 5 was where I
Oh
started this notebook.
wow.
So
See
it's a
what it See, I
been a
put
minute.
both shows in the same notebook,
Mm,
so it's a little different and it's also a bigger notebook. But I
yeah.
started with Stargate season 3, episode 8. But
Oh,
I do only have this much of my notebook left.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a new one. I'm using my work notebook instead. But
oh.
um so for next next week we'll be moving forward. In the meantime, if you have any predictions, thoughts, ideas, questions, concerns, email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you Sunday for Sci Fi Sunday.
Bye.